everybody. So this is the arched Gothic style window, and I decided that what I was going to do with it was to make it a stained glass window, because I do like them and I just think they're quite effective. So you're just going to get 3 items in this little package. This is your stand, this is the frame of the window, and that's your backing piece of MDF. Okay, so to save time, I've already decorated the outside of my actual window frame. I haven't painted the other side of the MDF yet because I haven't quite decided what I'm going to put on the back, so I'm going to leave that for now. As I've said to you before, there are scorch marks on some of this MDF. Don't worry about that, that's just where it's cut out on the laser cutting machine, and you won't see those once you've decorated it. So I'm going to leave the plainer side for the outside, and then that will sit on the top there, and it will sit in its little stand afterwards. So I've already painted the stand, and what I'm going to do with that is exactly the same as I've done with the frame of the window here, and I'm using the Stamperia Cerantica and Ancient Wax to go on the top of this, because I don't want it to detract from the actual window. I hope you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to just come in a little bit so that you can see that all I'm doing is using a paintbrush, dabbing it in the wax, and then dabbing the paintbrush onto the painted MDF. Well, I say painted, I haven't actually painted this. I've used a marker pen rather than paint. So you can see how quick and easy this is. I'm literally just dabbing this wax onto the MDF, which is already painted black, and then this will match the actual window frame that I've already done. There we go, I'll do. So just put that to one side. So that's the stand, and what will happen is once you've decorated it and you've put these 2 pieces together, you've got a notch on the bottom here which will slot in to that opening on there. Okay, it's a little bit fiddly because it's a bit tight, but it will go in, I promise you. So how did I decorate mine? I decided that I was going to use a page or 2 from one of Lisa's Mindful Moments mandala pads. These are superb quality pads. I think they're 250 GSM card, and they will take anything. The only thing I would say to you is that on some of them, if the centre of this design is a bit heavy in black ink, just be careful with your markers, because sometimes you'll find that the markers might make the black ink bleed a very tiny bit. If you're very careful, it won't, but just to make you aware of that, it can happen. So all I did was decide, by using the frame of the window, which pattern I wanted to use. I wanted to see where it would sit and what it would look like. Okay, and I just went through the whole pad deciding which one had got. I wanted something with a bit of interest, but I didn't want it to be really, really busy. I mean, you might argue with me and say, well, it is very busy, Dawn, but you know, each to their own. It's personal taste, and you can just do whatever you want to do. So that was how I decided which sheet I was going to use from the pad. There are 2 of these. This is volume 1 and volume 2 goes with it. They are on the website if you want to go and have a look, www.thatcraftplace.co.uk, just in case you didn't know. So then all I did was I cut out this piece of mandala, having decided which sheet I wanted it from. Now you'll see these are quite different. I decided not to go with the same for the top of the window as for the bottom of the window, because let's face it, stained glass windows can look different all over, can't they? They don't have to be uniform. But these were the ones I decided to go with. And this top one, you'll see, those circles fit right in the middle of those two little windows there. Can you see that? That was why I went for this pattern for this particular part of the window, and that they're quite symmetrical, so there are repeat patterns on both sides of the window. And then this one, I wanted a centerpiece, so that's why I went for this pattern. And I've just gone with colours. I think there's only about 4 colours in here, and I've just tried to space them out and make them look as interesting as possible. So that's how I chose what I did. I've coloured them with a mixture of Copic markers, and I've also used the pencils that Lisa bought out in one of her recent shows. They blend beautifully, these pencils, and if you use them in conjunction with the Zest-It, they will blend even better, but they do blend quite nicely on their own anyway. So I've used a mixture of both. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue these onto the backing piece of the window. Now you'll see that they fit slightly inside. I've cut them so that they fit and leave me a little bit of a gap round the outside, so they fit with a little bit of a lip, and that's purely and simply so that I can hopefully glue the MDF frame onto the backing and that the wood parts will adhere properly. Don't see any reason why they won't, and they will stick to the card as well anyway. So put a fair bit of glue on here and glue that to the backing piece, leaving a little bit of a gap all the way around it. So I've got a gap at the top and a gap all the way around that window. Now you can see there's a bar across the middle here, so long as that bar hides my join in the paper, I'm happy. Okay, so then it's just a case of deciding which way up this one's going to go, and again I have left a small margin of MDF all around the piece that I've already cut out. Okay, so I just put a bit of glue on the back of this, glue this down to the back of the MDF board. Now obviously this is going to make a difference to when you come to fit your two pieces into your stand. It's going to be a bit of a squeeze because it fits those two pieces of MDF, and I've just put an extra layer in between those two pieces. So it is going to be fiddly, but it will go in. Trust me, I've tried it. Okay, so that's then going to sit on there. And I'm going to glue that first. So again, I'm using my Cosmic Shimmer specialist acrylic glue. I like this glue because it does adhere very quickly, but it does give you a little bit of wiggle room, so that when you're putting your things together you can have a little bit of slide time, for want of a better phrase, so that you can just make sure that your two pieces are sitting exactly as they should do. So we'll just put this glue all the way around this frame like so. I'm being quite generous. I'm not going to worry if the glue seeps out of the side, because this glue will dry clear. I'll just dab that down a little bit. Don't want any huge blobs. So okay, so I've been quite generous with that because I don't want it to come apart. So now I'm just going to stick those two together like so, and I'm going to squeeze them together quite hard because I want them to be as tight together as possible, so that when I come to put them in the stand, I'm actually going to be able to get them in the stand properly. Okay, so you see how those two little round circles sit quite nicely in those windows. I really like those. So you can see there is a little bit of seepage on the glue. it's not going to make any difference. As I've said before, it dries clear anyway, so you're not going to see it. So now that you've put your two pieces together and you've got your stained glass window in situ, it's time to put the window into the base. Now, because you've glued these two pieces, there's going to be quite a tight fit between this and putting it in here than there was before we started to decorate. So play around with it, have a fiddle. It is going to go in, trust me, because I've already done mine, and it will go in. It's just a very tight fit because obviously I've got an extra piece of paper, but you can see that, I hope you can see that, that has gone in. You won't really need any glue to keep this in. It's quite solid, it's not going to go anywhere, and that's because you've got that extra layer of paper in here, and it's giving that extra bit of elasticity, if you like, between these two pieces of MDF here and the piece of paper going into the stand. So it's not going to go anywhere, it's quite sturdy, and your window is more or less finished. The only extra thing I'm going to do on here is I am going to paint the sides, and I am going to use paint for that because I don't want it to chip and I don't want it to be see-through. And then what I'm going to do for the window is I'm going to add some glossy accents so that these windows look like glass, so they look like windows. I hope that's okay for you. As I've said, it's very simple. It just depends how thick your card is. If I'd have thought about it, what I'd have probably done was perhaps try and print one, scan it in and print it off onto a thinner piece of paper so that it wasn't going to make too much of a difference of putting these two pieces together. But I think you'll agree it's pretty sturdy, it's not going anywhere, and the two pieces are glued together quite safely anyway. Okay, so there you are, that's your finished stained glass window once I've put the glossy accents in, and you'll see a photograph of that at the end as well. So remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for joining me today. See you again soon. Bye.